At age 68, movie star Dennis Quaid has certainly had his share of ups and downs. In the 80s, Dennis was poised to become one of the biggest movie stars in the world, but a crippling cocaine addiction hurt his career. But the actor has managed to work consistently in Hollywood and has had even a few major commercial successes, including The Parent Trap and The Day After Tomorrow. At the height of his cocaine addiction, he was married to fellow film star Meg Ryan. Meg was his second wife, and now he's on to his fourth. While Dennis is sick at this point of fielding questions about his addictions, he thinks it's better than talking about the 39-year age gap between himself and his new wife. Join Facts Verse as we explore how Dennis Quaid saw himself dead during his crippling cocaine addiction. Cocaine nearly destroyed Dennis Quaid's life. Dennis Quaid is still asked about his cocaine addiction often, even though he claims to have been free from the spell of the drug for about 2 decades. At the time he was in the deepest throes of his addiction, he was married to Meg Ryan. The two got married in 1991. When they began dating, Meg wasn't aware he had a serious cocaine problem. According to Quaid, his problem started in the 80s. Back then, cocaine was the norm amongst Hollywood movie stars. But there were certainly some stars who seemed to properly manage their use of the drug better than others. It's likely the majority of film stars were using it recreationally, though Dennis was one of the stars who took his use of the drug way too far. According to Dennis, cocaine use was so ubiquitous around Hollywood in those days that funds to purchase the drug were often included in film budgets. As a result, he found himself doing coke every day by the end of the decade. Quaid claims his cocaine use often kept him up at all hours of the night. Some nights he'd look at the clock after a binge and realize he had to be at work in an hour. At those moments, he said he would look up to the sky and pray to God to take the drug away from him. But by the afternoon of the next day, he would always be in serious need of a pick-me-up. Thus, the vicious cycle of cocaine abuse had full hold over him. A vision showed Dennis the light. In 1990, while engaged to Meg Ryan, Quaid had the vision that would first begin to pull the star away from his cocaine use. He said he had a vision where he saw himself dead from the substance abuse. The vision showed the actor the light, and he subsequently went to his fiancée and admitted the truth. Meg was receptive to Dennis asking for help. The two went through with their marriage, and Dennis got professional help for his addiction. Following this period, it seemed as if the actor was doing okay. He and Meg had a kid over the course of the 90s, and many believed Dennis's days of cocaine use were behind him. Sadly, over the course of his decade-long marriage to Meg Ryan, Dennis Quaid fell back under the spell of cocaine use. He started doing it towards the back half of the decade and claims he also started drinking in an attempt to both hide and abate the cocaine use. Previously, Dennis claims he'd never liked alcohol, but he began using it after relapsing into cocaine as a way to balance out the cocaine highs. He thought using alcohol would make the cocaine use not as bad, but he was wrong. His relapse into substance abuse eventually caused his 2001 divorce from Ryan. Their divorce was so tumultuous that then-President of the United States Bill Clinton allegedly called the actor up to see if he was doing okay. Despite this, Dennis eventually got over his second wife, and he's had 2 since. Before we tell you more about Dennis, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Losing Meg Ryan was Dennis's second wake-up call. According to Dennis, losing second wife Meg Ryan was a real wake-up call that finally tore him away from the demons of substance abuse once and for all. Finally, Dennis was free from his cocaine use. Despite the fact it was Meg who inspired him to quit for good, the two have remained separated, and Dennis has gone on to marry 2 other women since the divorce. In 2004, Dennis married a real estate agent named Kimberly Buffington. Kimberly thus became Kimberly Quaid, and the two had a pair of twins together. Dennis and Kimberly remained married until 2018. Prior to being married to Meg Ryan, he was married to actress PJ Soles from 1978 to 83. PJ is best known for her roles in the 1970s horror films Carrie and Halloween. Dennis's new wife is 39 years his junior. According to Dennis, he'd rather be asked about his cocaine use again than talk about the age gap. His new wife is 29-year-old Laura Savoie. After divorcing from Kimberly and prior to marrying Laura, Dennis was romantically involved with a model named Santa Alzina, who's 35. Laura Savoie is around the same age as Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan's son, Jack Quaid. According to Dennis, he had no intention of seeking out a much younger love interest, it simply happened. The two met at a business event, and Dennis found himself taken over not only by her look but also her personality. This was in 2019, and it was only several months after their initial meeting when Dennis popped the question. The two had envisioned a fancy wedding in Hawaii, but ended up marrying in Santa Barbara. They had an incredibly private ceremony as a result of COVID-19. One of the roles Dennis is best known for is playing the father in Disney's 1998 remake of The Parent Trap. In that film, Dennis's character is engaged to a much younger woman. The woman Dennis's character was engaged to was 26, while Dennis was 44. This age gap was treated as infinitely hilarious comedic fodder in the film, though that 18-year gap is nothing compared to the 39-year gap between Dennis and Laura. Fans were quick to point out the coincidence of Dennis marrying a much younger woman when The Parent Trap is one of his most popular films. The actor apparently took the comments with good humor and even kicked around the idea of marrying Laura at a vineyard that had been used as a filming location of the movie, but this didn't happen. Laura Savoie is more than meets the eye. Laura is a PhD student, so it's not surprising Dennis thinks highly of his new wife's personality. It seems, based on her education, she's likely the smarter of the two. When Dennis was Laura's age, he was staying up all night doing coke. Another thing Dennis claims to appreciate is Laura's faith in God. After the religious experience Dennis had during his cocaine use, it seems he's pretty faithful as well. Dennis could have been a bigger star. Dennis is certainly a notable film star, but he arguably could have been a bigger one if it wasn't for his cocaine use. While The Parent Trap and The Day After Tomorrow and The Rookie were all successes, they're nothing compared to some of the films which Dennis was offered early on in his career but had to drop out of because of his substance abuse. According to Dennis, he nearly could have had Tom Hanks' career. He was supposed to star in the movie Big, but he ended up dropping out. He also had to drop out of A League of Their Own and Sleepless in Seattle after being offered the roles in those features that went to Tom Hanks. Dennis Quaid is certainly no Tom Hanks, but he still gets work. Recently, the actor could be seen on the Netflix series Merry Happy Whatever, which was Christmas-oriented. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite Dennis Quaid movie? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.